again from the studios of Green Amendments for the Generations, we bring for you a reenactment from a portion of the recent oral argument in the case Fresh Air for the East Side versus State of New York and Waste Management New York. This is a portion of the argument presented by Waste Management with interjection from one of the judges. Judicial enforcement of the Environmental Rights Amendment, aka the Green Amendment, would constitute political policy making under the guise of constitutional interpretation. The ERA is totally different from other constitutional provisions the other parties cite. I will just mention the Due Process Clause that they mentioned twice. The Due Process Clause dates all the way back to the Magna Carta. So that is 600 years from when the Due Process Clause was enacted. The ERA, by comparison, really came out of nowhere. It started with the environmental movement, which started in the 60s and the 70s, and that precipitated some ERAs in other states. But what do my friends on the other side say in their brief? They say that, quote, this court should reject any effort to invoke the environmental standards.
Counselor, just a minute. It didn't come out of nowhere. The people of New York voted for this constitutional amendment. And in addition to that, the state of New York has said that this constitutional amendment binds the state, at least in certain respects. They ask us to avoid making a decision whether it's self-executing this context, but to say it came out of nowhere is not entirely true.
Well, it certainly was duly passed and voted upon. I didn't mean to suggest any sort of irregularity. I simply meant it doesn't have the historical...
It wasn't necessarily intended to be the equivalent of the Federal Clean Air Act. It doesn't have that type of purpose, but it does certainly here have some purpose according to the state in this particular case.
Well, we agree that it has a purpose. We don't think that purpose is judicial enforcement absent legislative action.
Maybe not in this case, but maybe in other ones. And counsel for the state give us 2 examples.
When it comes to waste management, the long and the short of it is, their position is that the Green Amendment has no power, that it changes nothing, that it came out of nowhere, and it doesn't make any difference whatsoever.